Hi, I am Suren Khirwadkar, the fellow who have written this book, History in the Making. History in the Making has 3 essays. The first one I told you about in my last video about America storming of the US Capitol building by the Trumpists. Today, I am going to tell you about the second essay, and it's on Israel, specifically Israel's quest for a safe and peaceful homeland. I honestly believe that no people in the history of the world have suffered so much for so long as the Jewish people. The Jewish holy book, the Talmud, places a solemn obligation on the Jews to live in the Holy Land, that is, Jerusalem. The persecution of the Jews started 2,000 years ago after the conquest by the Romans of Jerusalem. At that time, in the Roman Empire, the Jews accounted for approximately 10% of the population. According to James Carroll, who actually is Roman Catholic, according to him, if the Jews had not been decimated with sickening regularity over the last 2,000 years, their population today would be about 200 million instead of just 15 million. Anti-Semitism has been called the longest hatred by Professor Jerome Chains of the City University of New York. When Christianity became the religion of the Roman Empire, vilification and killing of Jews got the royal seal of approval. And it all began by accusing the Jews of deicide. Deicide is killing of a god. The Jews were first accused of killing Jesus the God in the 2nd century, and the accusation was freely circulated during the Crusades starting in the 11th century. Even the great literary masters like Chaucer, Marlowe, Shakespeare, Milton, Voltaire, Dickens, and many others quoted cheap popularity by catering to the existing prejudices by casting the Jews as ugly, villainous, and evil-minded people. And of course, there were Uncle Toms among the Jews as well. Karl Marx, himself a Jew, blamed the Jews for exploitation of workers because, according to him, they embodied capitalism. The irony is that at the same time, the Jews were also accused of being collaborators of communism. Nazi Germany, in fact, coined a new phrase, Judeo-Bolshevism, to lay the blame for the defeat of Germany in the World War First, in the First World War, at the doors of the Jews. America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, also produced a virulent form of anti-Semitism. Major General Ulysses Grant, the great American hero, in 1962 ordered the expulsion of the Jews from the areas under his control because they were considered intolerable nuisance. Henry Ford was another leading figure who in fact printed a false tract called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, holding them responsible for starting both the First and the Second World War to profit from them. My book, History in the Making, has fascinating details of how the great American universities such as Harvard, Yale, and others systematically discriminated against Jewish students. President Truman, 1945 to 1949, was sympathetic to the idea of Jewish homeland in Palestine, and in fact he recognized the state of Israel just 11 minutes after David Ben-Gurion, the first Prime Minister of Israel, proclaimed its creation on 14th May 1948. Soon after, a military conflict broke out. There have been several military conflicts and 6 major wars that Israel has had to fight since its creation. In 1948, in 1956, in 1967, in 1973, in 1982, and in 2006. And of course, there have been many, many minor skirmishes causing many injuries and deaths on both sides since then. You should really pick up my book, History in the Making, to read the fascinating details, because I believe that you cannot understand the politics of the Middle East, which is so close to us, without understanding the reasons for the Arab-Israeli conflict. Just as there have been several conflicts between Israel and Palestine, supported by Arab states, there have also been similar accords. The chief among the accords are the Camp David Accords of 1978 and the Oslo Accords of 1993 and 1995. You can't understand Israel and the problems it has had without understanding the role of the Palestine liberation movement of Yasser Arafat. Today, the Palestine movement founded by Yasser Arafat is split between Al-Fatah, led by Mahmoud Abbas, which controls the West Bank, and the militant Hamas, which holds sway over the Gaza Strip. As I said earlier, the Israeli-Palestine dispute is as old as Israel. There have been several proposals to resolve the thorny issues of the Israel and Palestine, and the chief among them have been the options of one state, two states, federation, and confederation. You will find the details of all these options in my book, History in the Making. The bottom line is that none of these options have a hope in hell of being accepted by the contesting parties, with the result that the chief patrons of Palestine, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia have lost interest in resolving the dispute, and to make matters worse, the issue is no longer a priority for the Biden administration. The crux of the matter is Jerusalem. It's been sacred to Judaism for about 3,000 years, for Christianity for around 2,000 years, and for Islam for about 1,400 years. Whereas the two-state solution, according to me, is the least bad option. The control of the Temple Mount is the veritable Gordian knot. Now, I don't have the time, and perhaps you may not have the patience for me to go through the details of the Temple Mount. But you can see the details of what Temple Mount is all about, both physically and emotionally, to the Jews, to the Christians, and to the Muslim people in my book, History in the Making. After the blood of thousands of Jews and thousands of Muslims has been spilt in the various wars and conflicts between Israel and Palestine, as supported by the Arab states, I am left with the conclusion that neither Israel nor the Arab states would surrender the control of the Temple Mount. And if the Temple Mount issue is not resolved, you cannot have a resolution of the Arab-Israeli conflict, because Christianity has the Vatican, Islam has Mecca, but the Jews, they just have the Wailing Wall. And the Jews have wailed for the last 2,000 years. They want to pray at their holiest site, where the first and the second temples once stood, and which were destroyed so that no trace can be found. I hope you have liked my talk. If you did, I would request you to buy my book, History in the Making. It's only 500 rupees. Order it today from Amazon. Thank you.